So first of all, when I was doing my research, there are still persistent gaps between what the policy is being made about and the implementation of policy, especially around gender. When I read the data, so there we see that there are glaring persistent gender inequalities in every aspect of life. Gender parity is not something nice to have, not just a social imperative. It is a strategic thing to have because there are economic benefits of having gender parity.
According to the Gender Gap Index 2025,
Yes.
we are at 131st position out of 148 countries. So what could be the reason for us being so much behind the other neighboring countries? Hello everyone, good morning, good evening or good night if you're watching it at night after your classes are done. Today we have with us an esteemed guest, Ms. Valbha Shakia. She is the Deputy Director at CII, Center for Women Leadership. Hello Valbha, welcome to Voxen University podcast series. So first questions, I want to dive into your early life. So tell us, how was it in your early life, where you were brought up, and how did you come so far being the Deputy Director of CII?
Okay, so hi, I am Valbha and I was born and brought up in Patna, in one of the villages in Patna. And for education, I moved to Bokaro Steel City, where I did my education up till 12th, and then I guess I was always a studious student, and that is how it helped me secure admission in Shri Ram College of Commerce, and where I did bachelor's in economics, and then I pursued on this economics subject, and I went on to do master's in economics from Delhi School of Economics. So during these college and undergrad and graduation years, I realized my interest for economics because it is backed by data. We get to see things or research about things using data. So then I pursued research into economics, and that is how I joined at MPhil program at Jawaharlal Nehru University. So this is about my career progression. And meanwhile, when I was working, when I joined for MPhil at Jawaharlal Nehru University, so before that I also worked as an assistant professor in Delhi University. So yeah, my career spans both teaching, research, and then from there I have moved into policy making. So yeah, this is about me.
Okay, that was a wonderful insight. So you said that first you were doing the research. So your background spans research and policy from CSEP to CII.
Yes.
So how do you explain us that why did you opted to go with the gender parity and women leadership specifically? Was it the data that you went through?
Yeah. So I would say both this academic journey, research journey has a role to play in shaping my decision towards gender parity, taking up works in this area of gender parity. So first of all, when I was doing my research and when I was involved with the research at CACP or NCAR, so there I learned that there are still persistent gaps between what the policy is being made about and the implementation of policy, especially around gender. So that was one thing. The second is when I read the data, so there we see that there are glaring persistent gender inequalities in every aspect of life. So these two things, like reading is one thing, then you see it through data, and then you see that even though there are policies that exist, there is a huge gap between policy making and implementation. So that is why I decided to join a place where we are really involved into policy making, where I could really make a difference, and that is what at CII we do. So at CII, through our industry engagements, talking to people, we come across examples of where there are persistent gaps in gender policy making, or how we can bridge those gaps, or what we can do to make a difference. So yeah, this is what I believe that we should be doing. And one thing more that I would like to add is that gender parity is not something nice to have, not just a social imperative. It is a strategic thing to have, because there are economic benefits of having gender parity, and this belief now guides my work. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I have a follow-up question to that.
Yes.
According to the Gender Gap Index 2025,
Yes.
we are at 131st position out of 148 countries. So what could be the reason for us being so much behind the other neighboring countries? Because if we see the other countries that are neighboring countries, they are actually far more better in this index. What would you say? Why do we have this gap?
Okay, so there are two parts to this question. So first of all, we are definitely making a progress, and that can also be seen across all the four parameters that the gender parity index measures. And we have been making progress on each of these parameters. So those, I would say that the gap is structural, and it is definitely going to improve in future. The second thing is, we have done a paper on this global gender gap index, and here I would like to point out that there are four parameters that this index measures. So first is economic participation, second is health and survival, third is education, and fourth is political empowerment. So all these parameters have certain sub-parameters on which the data is gathered by the World Economic Forum, and then they come out with these indices. So in our paper, what we are making a case is that these indices are somewhat falling short of measuring the true or real nuances of socio-economic and cultural context of India and the global south. So that is one thing. And for example, I would like to point out that in India we have three-tiered government structures. So we have central government, then state governments, and local governments. So what the gender gap index measures is how many women are there in parliaments and the upper state houses. It totally it doesn't capture local and rural, local bodies. So while we have like around 17% representation in upper houses, we have around 46% representation in lower houses, in Panchayati Raj institutions,
Yes.
which is one of the highest in the world. So if we truly capture it, I think India's rank will be much better than what we have now.
But being the fourth largest economy, I believe that the sectors like manufacturing sector, service sectors, we are lagging behind in certain things that our neighboring countries are doing well. Yeah. So what are the policies that CII have come up to close this gap with the help of policymakers?
Okay, so there is a I would like to say that we really need to bring a change in the mindset, because even now we have a perception that certain areas are not deemed fit for women, certain areas are like too masculine, the jobs are too masculine, and so on. So one initiative that we are running at CII Center for Women Leadership is in the logistics sector. So women in logistics sector, the representation is around 11% of women in the leadership roles, which is quite low. Even if we compare with the global standards. So what we are doing through our initiative is we want to promote the inclusion of women in the logistics sector, and we don't only want to stop at inclusion, because participation or representation is one thing. We also want women to take up the leadership positions, because then their voices will be heard. Then they will be able to make decision and in a position of power, and they also will be role model for the younger generations, so that more and more women can join these areas which are like being said to be too masculine or male dominated sectors.
Then I believe that not just the corporates or administrators or policymakers, the society at all should work in this.
Yes.
Because we see that's the reason why we are facing such low percentage of women
Yes.
being active at workplace or getting chance actually in the workplace. So I'll have a follow-up questions with that. So despite of promoting STEM education in India, we see that there are very few STEM field that has leadership role for women, like scientists, engineers. There are very few roles for them, and it's a huge competition for them to be there. So what would you say, how would you address this gap? Because if I'm not wrong, there is the data where 48% of women from India are in STEM education, but yet the percentage of them being in the leadership role is so little. It's about 12 to 18%. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, so you are right in mentioning that we have one of the largest number of STEM graduates in the world. And so there are a couple of points that I would like to mention here. First is the leadership progression pipeline that we have. So we have a kind of leaky pipeline where we are not we have not still accounted for the needs or the different needs of women. So women at certain stage get into motherhood responsibilities. So we still have not accounted for that. So first my suggestion is that the leadership pipeline should be inclusive of that they should we should make motherhood we should recognize that motherhood is a natural thing to happen, and we should implement those in workplaces. We should normalize career breaks because of motherhood and caregiving responsibilities. And third is we should be creating more of return to work pathways where women with career gaps feel comfortable enough to join the workforce again. So first is this. Second thing is I believe in this principle of ask and not assume. So what I feel is that the policies that we make here is we are somehow designing these policies from the lens that these are the things that women might want. But this has to change. We have to ask women what do they want. The policies have to reflect the lived realities of women rather than prescribing the solution to them. So we must involve more and more women in co-creating solution rather than imposing them with some kind of solution. So this is my second thing that I would like to change. Third is I believe that there is also this marriage aspect which plays a role, that many women, they just get educated so that they become eligible brides, and once they are married then they drop out from the workforce. So I think all of these have a role to play. So the problem is not at the entry level, but it is at how we progress beyond this entry. So as we progress, the leadership pipeline becomes very thin and narrow. So yeah, that is the real problem here.
Yes, it's absolutely about how we address it. So one of my friend's sister, actually, she was working with a company and she had taken maternity leave. Yes. And when she took it and rejoined it again, she was not given any projects, and then she got fired. So the companies doesn't realize that it's not a burden. It's for them to understand that it's a natural process every human being goes through. And by just giving a leave to a woman because she got a child, the leave should be given to the father also.
Yes.
So there should be something about this. What would you like to say on that?
Yeah. So first of all, definitely motherhood should not be seen as a penalty. It should not be seen as some disruption. Women having kids, they should not be given some kind of penalty just because they chose to become a mother. So first is, we should be recognizing that this is completely natural process, and every parent, whether it's a male or female, they have to go through it. So I think right now we have maternity leaves being given to women. So I would like to advocate for paternity leaves as well, because I feel that it is also the responsibility of the father to take care of the child. So we should normalize these caregiving responsibilities, that it is also the role or responsibility of the father to provide care or share the household responsibilities. Okay. For having said this, what I would also like to say is that we should be focusing more on return to work pathways, where women who are joining back after maternity leave, they should not be penalized because of that.
Absolutely.
So we should be providing them for the skill gap that they went through in those in those months. Like career progression should not like be penalized just because they took a maternity leave. So they should be able to start from where they left, and even if there is gap, so we should be like designing some kind of solution where we are able to tackle those gaps and we are able to cover up with this skilling gap. So another thing that I would like to add upon women leadership, that it should start from the early stages of her life. So we should be promoting leadership across all areas. So first it should be start with the parenting that we give to our children. It should start at the household. So in our society, due to these patriarchal norms and so on, we impose like certain conditions or certain norms on female children, that you as a female child are not supposed to take this role, or you're not allowed to engage in these activities and so on. So like for example sports, or for example anything like army, joining army or taking such heavy roles. But now we are seeing a progress. Okay, so women are joining combat, they are doing very good into sports and so on. So this is a note to parents, especially of the younger kids, that they should not like impose these conditions on their female child. They should treat the male and female child equally and give them equal opportunities, so that we do not, as parents, we don't put any restrictions on the growth of that child. The child should be free enough to decide what suits them, which field they want to take on and so on.
Yes, there is this norm that when a girl child is born, you give them Barbie dolls or kitchen set.
Yes.
Whereas when a boy is born, you give them something that's related to your neurological ability.
Yeah.
So they actually gain that ability, the perspective of looking at the world in a different way rather than a girl, because that's how we are structured till now. Coming up with the question again, I would like to ask you, you work with a lot of corporate leaders. So what's one misunderstanding that you go about, that gender parity plays a vital role in decision making of a business?
Yeah. So first I would like to answer the question that you're saying that when a female child is born, they are given Barbie dolls and everything. So I have been lucky enough, because I grew up in a household where I have like 6 older brothers and cousins.
Okay.
So I was very lucky in that sense that that thing was not imposed on me, where that you being a female child, you cannot do this, you cannot. So yeah, I have been like, I used to play with my brothers, I used to climb trees and all. So I have been very lucky in that sense. And the second thing is, like, my parents also do not believe in that kind of belief that being a female child or being a girl child, I have to like get married at some point, and then I have to go to my husband's house and I have to take care of the responsibility of the household and so on. And that is why I should be like learning all the household work and so on. So I never had to go through all that, and I would like use this platform to like share. I have shared my story, and I would like to urge the parents that do not impose these kind of conditions on your girl child. Like, let them explore what they want to do, because somehow or later they, like, everybody has to deal with when we go out in the field, and when we start working, when we become independent, we learn like how to live. So these are some basic skills that as a person you have to learn, whether you are a male or female. So it should not be some condition that you are putting on a female child and not on male child. Coming to the next part of the question, where you asked that how in my interaction with industry leaders, how this gender parity or leadership is perceived. So what I feel that there is a misunderstanding here about representation or leadership. So first is that it is still perceived that gender parity or diversity is a good thing to have. It's some social imperative that they have to fulfill. So first I would like them to change this mindset, and I would like them to think it from a strategic perception, where they feel or they have to take into account that women are adding values to the corporate sector. So this is one thing. Second is, even if to drive inclusion or to achieve gender parity, they are hiring women. So they have to understand that just hiring women into their companies it's not just going to close this gap. So representation is one thing. We also have to think about that whether these women are progressing into leadership positions or not, whether their voices are being heard or not, whether they are into co-creating solutions or not. So that is one thing that I would ask the corporates to think more along these lines.
Okay. So based on the theme, that's gender parity and women leadership in India, what would you like to convey to our audience regarding that?
Okay, so so on this gender parity and female leadership thing, I want to say that please treat this as something strategic to have, not just a social imperative and something nice to have. Second is, I would like to urge all the people present here, whether they are male or female, to come and co-create solutions that work better for females, for progression of female into leadership positions and inclusive workplaces. Third is, and most important thing, is that I would like for young girls to have some leadership or some role models to grow up with, so that they from young only they feel that this is something that they can achieve, and it is a norm, it is not a difficult thing to achieve, it is a lived reality. So that's it.
Thank you, Valbha. We are very privileged to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that was an insightful conversation with Ms. Valbha Shakya. To our listeners, we would say, and I would articulate from the conversation that I had with her, is that gender parity is not a women issue. It's a society issue, it's a leadership issue, and it's an economic issue. To all the viewers, on behalf of Voxen University, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.